SEO 101. Hey guys, the video you're about to watch is a series of videos I did back in 2019, it's 2022 as I recorded this, where I did a series on SEO 101, like a very, very beginner introduction to SEO for people that need to learn SEO or want to learn SEO. It starts literally from what does SEO stand for, up to getting your first site set up, optimizing a little bit of the on page and the interlinking, some other things like that. It's 6 or 7 videos, so it's probably going to be maybe an hour, hour and a half long. So it's a great video. I'm also going to break it up and put it on legit courses and continue to add to it. It'll be totally free there too. So check out that link. Eventually that'll be in the description here too. But like I said, it's completely free. It's great. It's a great resource if you're just getting started, and maybe if you have some experience, there will be some stuff there for you too. So check it out. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to get back to them. But enjoy. I've put together kind of an agenda or an outline or whatever you'd like to call it here. And basically just to give you an idea of, you and I, for that matter, an idea of what to expect out of this series, these videos, and what kind of let you know what's coming. So first, I've got a glossary of terms. Now, obviously, I can't go over this in a video because it would take too long. But I know as I'm going through this series that I'm going to make reference to terms that you may or may not understand or be familiar with. And to me, I use them so often that I forget that. So I've kind of put that together, and I'll link to that in the comments. So next is, what is SEO? Again, I know that most anybody watching this probably already knows what that is, but I want to assume that you know absolutely nothing and kind of walk you through the entire thing. Now, this is just in case you're wondering, this isn't going to just be me all talking and screen captures and stuff like that. I'm going to do over-the-shoulder examples throughout the whole thing, so you can kind of see that. That's a complaint that I've gotten in my training a lot, is I don't do enough over-the-shoulder type thing, and that's how a lot of people like to learn. It's not for me, but I need to remember that. So just to get that out of the way. Next, we're going to talk about what is the point of doing SEO, because obviously you might think it's great to do search engine optimization to rank your site, but you may not know why you need that. So we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about SEO versus paid advertising, and that's pretty straightforward, right? Some people might ask, I can just buy a Google ad and show up at the top of Google. Why wouldn't I just do that? So we're going to talk about things like that. Then we're going to get into how to know what to rank for, or basically keyword research. And I'll explain what keywords and keyword research is as we go along, but essentially I'm going to show you how to know what you want your website or other thing to show up for in Google. Then we'll get into ranking factors, which are the things that Google and the other search engines look for. We're going to talk about homepage versus inner pages, because I see a lot of people get confused on the point of the different uses of those. And then overall site structure, those two things kind of go together. Then we'll talk about off-page SEO, which is exactly what it sounds like. Not all of your SEO is done on your website. Some of it is done off the site. So we'll get into the different things that are important there. And then we'll get into some advanced SEO. Now, these are not all necessarily going to be separate videos. And there may be videos that aren't listed here because the topic itself requires more than one point, and it might make more sense to make a separate video. But this is kind of the 20,000 foot view of what we're going to be talking about. So that's kind of what we're going. I wanted you to know what to expect. So let's dive into our first two topics. We're going to talk about in this video, what is SEO and what is the point of doing SEO. So what is SEO? This is a definition that I just kind of made up myself. Not made up, but wrote out myself just now. SEO stands for search engine optimization. A search engine is something like Google, Yahoo, Bing, and so on. Search engine optimization is the process of setting up an entity such as a website, video, or blog on the internet in a way that search engines like Google, Bing, Yahoo, YouTube, and others understand and like, in an attempt to have that entity show up higher in search listings and in turn drive more visitors to your site, or traffic is kind of the encompassing term for that. So that's kind of what search engine optimization means. Again, I know most of you probably already knew that, but I want to assume that whoever's landing on this doesn't know anything at all and walk them from the beginning to the end. So that's what search engine optimization stands for. So what is the point of doing search engine optimization, or SEO? Well, first of all, for the rest of this series, I'm going to be using Google as the example. Now, a lot of what we're going to talk about could apply to other search engines, but the majority of people are interested in Google and finding out stuff about Google. So for the sake of simplicity, whenever I say search engine, I'm going to be talking about Google for the rest of this training, unless for some reason I specifically say otherwise. So the point of search engine optimization is to have your website show up at the top of a particular search engine result page. Now, a search engine result page is created by putting in a term into Google. So, for example, suppose I'm let's say, an accountant in Des Moines, Iowa, and I want to get more accounting clients or business. So we would type in Des Moines accountant. And what we have here is what's called a search engine result page. Basically, the resulting page that's created by putting in a term, a keyword, into Google and generating a page of results for that. Now, the point of doing search engine optimization is to have your site show up at the top of the search engine result page for that keyword. So these are the map listings. This is for local businesses. We'll talk about that later in the series. This is an ad, and the only way those are different is it says ad right there. That means someone has paid to have their website show up at the top for the term Des Moines accountant. Then we have this is a rich snippet. We probably won't be going into that in this particular training. And then we have what are called the organic listings. That is the listings that Google shows that aren't paid or influenced by Google in any way, other than it using their algorithm. When I say not influenced, I mean people haven't paid to show up here. And then we have some more ads. And this is going to look different for every term, but this is kind of a general outlet or layout. And here are some suggested search terms. And then here's how you go to the next pages and so on. But our goal for the most part of what we're going to be talking about in this training is the ranking in these terms right here, the organic listings. And what is the point of showing up here? Well, let's take this site, for example, Denman and Company, Des Moines Accounting and Business Consulting. They are obviously some sort of accounting firm that wants to bring in more accounting business and clients and businesses and things of that nature. So they know that people that want that, at least in Des Moines, are going to type in the term Des Moines accountant. And later on, we'll show you how to figure out what terms and how to figure those things out. But for now, just kind of go with the fact that they know they want to show up for the term Des Moines accountant. So they've optimized their site in such a way, or maybe an SEO professional that they hired, have optimized their site in such a way as to show up for that term. That way people looking for a Des Moines accountant will see them. And I skipped over these because these are big directories where anybody can list them, and that gets into a whole other thing. But for now, we're just going to talk about regular websites. So this company, Denman and Company, has optimized their site for that term, and they show up first. So they are most likely to get the most traffic or people to their site in order to get more customers or clients. And by the way, if you own an SEO agency, you may want to reach out to these guys, because I'd be real surprised if the site converts for them. No offense to Denman and Company. If you see this, just add some SSL to your site and kind of work on this slider and this menu a little bit. Sorry, got a little distracted there, but anyhow, that's kind of the point of search engine optimization, is to have your website show up at the top so the most people will see it, and then do whatever it is you want them to do. Generally, that's going to be some sort of monetary goal, but not always. You might have a blog or something, maybe a political site or something like that, where you just want to get your message out and you want to get it in front of people. But for the most part, it's going to be some sort of monetary goal. And just to give you another example, you may own like an e-commerce or an info product / affiliate type site, and there the goal is to actually make a sale. So let's look at another example. This should still be around. Venus Factor is a weight loss
program for an affiliate product, and we'll talk about affiliate later on. If you don't know what that is right now, don't worry about it. We'll get into that later in the series, but this is a product that's been for sale for a long time, hence why it was the first one I could think of, where basically people are trying to make a sale of someone else's product and get a commission for it. So let's look at this number one result here, healthvi.org. Their goal by ranking for the term Venus Factor Review is to sell more of this program here. It helps lose weight or exercise. I don't really know, to be honest, but it's something to that effect. So they have optimized their site both on and off page in order to make as many sales of this site here, or of this product here, the Venus Factor, to get as many sales and commissions from that as possible. So that's the other way that you can use SEO ranking to monetize it. So that's pretty much how that works. Again, if you have any questions, if I went too fast, if I'm not clear about anything, ask in the comments and I will personally respond to them. But let's take a look back at our outline. Okay, so I've linked you to our glossary of terms that's in the description. And if I use any terms that aren't in there, just let me know and I'll add them to it. We talked about what SEO or search engine optimization is, and we talked about what the point of doing SEO is. So I think that's probably a good place to stop for this video because the next topics are kind of their own thing. But so that's kind of what we got in for this video. Let me jump back on camera and let you know what to expect now. Okay, so we are here at Namecheap.com. That's Namecheap.com. And of course, I'll leave a link to that below this video. But what Namecheap is they provide, they're called what's called a domain registrar. There's tons of them out there. There's Namecheap, there's GoDaddy, there's Name, there's Network Solutions. Namecheap is my personal favorite for, I don't know, it's just because of what I'm used to. And then one other reason that I'll show you in just a bit. Now, this is where you're going to do two things. You're going to buy a domain and you're going to buy hosting to put that domain on. And that's kind of the main things you're going to do here. Now, normally before you buy a domain, you would have done some keyword research and have an idea what niche you're going to go into. I'm going to cover that in another video, but I wanted to give you something that you could kind of get started with, feel like you've put in some work rather than just listening to me talk. So follow along with this or watch the whole thing and then come back and then start it yourself. But this is where we're going to do. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to register the domain ketoforvegans.net. Keto is a type of diet, and then obviously a vegan is someone that doesn't eat animal products. And that's going to be the website that we're going to be building and working on throughout this case study, training, whatever you want to call it. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in ketoforvegans.net. And it is available. Now you may be wondering why I didn't choose a .com, and that is because I skipped ahead and I saw that it was taken. So there's nothing wrong with using a different domain extension. I like to stick to .com, .net, or .org, but you can use some of those fancy new ones too, if that's what you'd like to do. So we're going to add that to cart, and then we're going to view our cart. And now I'm going to show you a quick little tip to save you some money. So up here you'll notice, well, you can't see it, but there's a Chrome browser extension called Honey. And I think you download that at joinhoney.com. Just Google it if not. And then what I'm going to do is click Apply Coupons. And what this is going to do is it's going to search through all the known coupons for Namecheap. It's going to apply them and see if it can save us some money. So that's what it's doing right now. It's cycling through the different coupon codes that are known to exist. Sometimes this will save you a few dollars. Sometimes it'll save you a lot of money. Sometimes it won't save you anything. But we'll see what we get here. It only takes a minute or two. And if you buy a lot of domains and do a lot of SEO, this is definitely worth it. So there you go. We saved $2.60. That adds up over time, even though it's not a ton of money. And then we're going to confirm the order. And I'm going to pause while I pay for that, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Over here I've blocked out my payment information, so No one tries to buy a nice big plasma TV for themselves. Do people even still buy plasmas? Anyhow, one thing I forgot to mention, one of the reasons I really like Namecheap is you get what they call free WhoisGuard. Now, that's a technical thing. Don't worry too much about it. But basically what that means is that there are websites out there where you can put in a website and see who owns it, including their email, their phone number, all that other information. And obviously, when there are companies out there that scrape those and try to call you and email you and sell you a bunch of stuff you don't need, and it's really annoying. So I put that on all of my sites, but other registrars like GoDaddy actually charge for it. So that's why I strongly recommend you use Namecheap. And again, there's a link to that in the description. So now that we have our domain, the next thing we need to do is set up some hosting. So what we're going to do, we're going to jump back to the Namecheap homepage. We're going to come up here to hosting. Now there's all sorts of different types of hosting, and the details of the different kinds is really geeky. We're going to get the most basic one we can find. So we're going to click compare plans. And I think for our needs, this one is going to be what we go with because it's the cheapest. And well, this isn't something we're going to need a lot of computing power for. So now we want to use a domain I own with Namecheap. So we're going to click on that, and then we're going to type in keto for vegans. I spelled it wrong. ketoforvegans.net. So then we're going to click select. We're going to continue to our purchase. And then one more time, we're going to run the Honey plugin to see if we can't save ourselves a little money. We're already getting a pretty big discount on this, so I'd be surprised if we do. But again, this only takes a couple minutes every time you purchase something. And it's not just on Namecheap. This is most sites on the internet will accept. And basically any site that accept coupons will work with this. So definitely install that. joinhoney.com. So give this just another second or two while it tries to find us a deal. And it didn't find us any, but that's okay. So we'll continue to check out. We'll confirm the order. And again, I'm going to pause while I pay for it. All right, we're back. And again, I have my payment information blacked out. Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to click Manage. And then we're going to click Manage again. Now here in this section where it says Name Servers, you want to click this drop down and click Namecheap Web Hosting DNS. Click the check mark. And then we're going to come up here to Products. And then we're going to click Manage. Now this isn't quite ready yet because it's only been a minute or two. So I'm going to pause while this gets finished set up on their end. And then we're going to go through and we're going to install WordPress. Alrighty, we're back and this is ready to go. So now what you do is you click Go to cPanel. Now this is probably going to look intimidating because there's a lot of things in here, but there's only one that you're ever really going to need in most cases, at least for basic SEO, and that's WordPress. So we're going to click WordPress and install now. We can leave all of this the same. Here we want to put keto for vegans. This is going to be what shows up in the title of your site, basically the part that you see on the tab in your web browser. And now we want to put in a description. This is optional, but I usually do it. It is for everyone. Something like that. It doesn't matter. You can always change it later. Here we're going to put in a username. And then we'll have it generate us a password. And that's going to be changed by the time you guys see it. So don't get any ideas. And then here, I don't turn this one on, but you could. It's a security option. Classic editor I turn on because, well, just take my word for it, you're going to prefer it. And then I uncheck this one because I have a different one that I like. Now for theme, a theme is an already created way of making your site look like something right out of the box. You can check any theme that you want. I don't have any preference on any. And we're going to show you, and I'm going to show you in a future video, we're going to go through setting that up in a future video. So for now, we just want something super basic, so there will be something there. And when I need something really basic, the theme I choose is sparkling. You absolutely don't have to choose this. I just like it because it's really basic and really light. And then we just click install. This usually only takes a second or two. And there you have it. Now, at this stage, sometimes the site doesn't show up right away. It has to do what's called propagate, which means it needs to have the rest of the internet know that ketoforvegans.net is now moved to this address. We're going to see if maybe we got lucky and it's already set up, but we'll probably have to pause and come back. Oh, no, look at that. It's already set up. So there you have it. You have your very first site on the internet in what, just a few minutes. So that's all there is to it. Let's take a look at the admin side of WordPress, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. So there's two ways you can do it. You can come back here and just click this link here, the administrative URL, but I'm going to show you what it looks like. So we're going to paste that in. Now we're going to put in our name. We chose Keto for Vegans, and then that password that we created, and log in. Oops. Yeah, I copied that. So we're going to have to go back and get our password. This is why it's important to write these things down. So yeah, we'll just click that link for now, and I'm going to change the password. But you would just put in your password there. And this is the back end of WordPress. This is where you can update what the site says. You can update the title. You can add pictures. You can make the site do anything you want pretty much from here. This is called a content management system. And WordPress is the most common one. It's like, I don't know, 60% of the internet runs on it or something like that. So this is going to be the easiest one to use. And in most cases, it's what you're going to use. So that's pretty much it. In just a few steps, we now have our very first site on the internet. Now it's just a shell, obviously. We haven't added any content or anything like that yet, but we're going to get to that in future videos. In this video, I just wanted to give you a quick tutorial on how easy it is to set up your very first website. So there you have it. I'm going to jump back on camera and we're going to wrap this thing up. All right, guys, we are here in my computer and we're going to pull in Alex Becker with this explanation and kind of draw it out. And basically we're going to make two categories. And why will this not go away? All right, whatever. First on this side, we're going to put paid ads, and we're going to call that PPC. Now, PPC stands for pay per click. And what that means is that every time someone clicks on the ad, and there are variations, but for general speaking, every time someone clicks on the ad, the person doing the advertising gets paid, and they with the hopes of driving them to their page to make some sales. And then on this side, we're going to have SEO. And we talked about what SEO is in a previous video. If you haven't checked that out yet, just it should be linked here. The whole playlist should be. So just check that out. So on the side, we're going to talk about the advantages of PPC. Is that it's nearly instant. So you start your campaign, and then as long as you followed all the rules, they'll review it, and most of the time you'll get approved right away or very quickly. So if you need to start making some sales or getting people to your website quickly, then PPC is going to have an advantage over SEO, which takes some time. Now, the next advantage is that it's easier to track the data. So you can look at the analytics that it gives you. Analytics is a type of reporting that tells you different things about your traffic. Now, you can get analytics for all of your traffic, but with this, with PPC, it'll track how many clicks you've got. If you set it up right, it'll count how many conversions you got. A conversion is when someone does the thing that you want them to do. So if it's make a sale, if it's to click on a link, whatever it is, when you have a goal in mind for the person navigating to your site to do something, that's what a conversion is. And in PPC, that's much easier to track. Now, these are the main two advantages. There are other things that you can do. This is easier to scale, I would say, because you can dump as much money into it as you want, and as long as the audience is there, it can grow it up as high as you want. Now, the downside is, obviously, it's paid forever. So, at the minute you stop paying, the traffic goes away. And then the other disadvantages of it include the fact that typically speaking, especially for Google paid ads, they just don't get as many clicks as our organic. And remember, we talked about organic rankings, how much our organic listings get. So less clicks, which means you're going to have to spend more to get the same results that you would with SEO. Those are the main two disadvantages, and I could go a lot deeper into various ups and downs, but again, we're trying to keep this as basic as possible, and please forgive my poor handwriting, such as it is, that anyway, please forgive that. So the biggest advantages are that it's nearly instant. Once your campaign is up and running, you'll start getting at least your ad will start getting shown, and that you'll potentially start getting clicks. It's easier to track, meaning you have a lot more data, and once you figure out what works, you can just keep dumping money into it until it doesn't work anymore. So once you basically solve the equation of I put in $1, I get 2 out, you can scale that up as high as you can until it stops working. And then again, it's easier to scale because of what I kind of just said. So those 3 things are the main advantages. The disadvantage is that you have to pay, and you have to pay forever. So if you want that traffic, you have to keep it going. If you shut it off, then the traffic goes completely away. And it doesn't get as many clicks. And there are studies out there that back that up. You can go find them if you want. But for the most part, everyone knows that PPC ads don't get as many clicks, at least in Google search, as SEO. I should say disadvantage. So anyhow, so those are kind of the advantages and disadvantages of this. And I guess we'll do it this way. The advantages to SEO are that it's long term. That's also a disadvantage, which we'll get to in a moment. But once you're ranking, it's much easier to keep ranking than it is to get ranking. So once you get onto number 1 or near the top, it's much easier to stay there than it was to get there. And you don't have to keep paying like you do with PPC. So SEO is a much more long-term play. You can target a lot more keywords for about the same amount of money. Well, what I mean is, with PPC, the more keywords you want to be exposed for, the more money you're going to have to put in. And that's somewhat true with SEO, and we'll get to that later. But overall, it doesn't cost you anything more to target, say, a New York lawyer and then a New York attorney, like it would with PPC. That's not a great example, but overall, I think you get the gist, is that it takes more keyword. you can get more keywords for roughly the same price. It's not entirely accurate, like I said, but you get the idea. And wow, this looks really bad. Another disadvantage to SEO is it takes a long time to get feedback. So it might take weeks, months, or years depending on your skills and the terms you're targeting and your site and a bunch of other factors that we're going to get into, but it takes a long time to see the effect of your action. So you optimize the page. It might take a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever, for it to increase its ranking. You also don't get to see which keywords work and which don't. So you may spend a bunch of time doing some keyword research, which we're going to cover in a video soon, and find a keyword that looks like it should work because it has a lot of search volume and a low competition. But then you're going to find that maybe that keyword doesn't turn those visitors into sales or whatever your goal for your site is. So that's another big disadvantage, and it's not one that I hear people really talk about a lot. So that's a drawback. Where with PPC, you can run X amount of testing data to it, X amount of traffic to your site, and then find out that those keywords, they might drive people there, but those people don't necessarily buy or subscribe or whatever it is that you're trying to get them to do. So with PPC, you get that data much faster, but with SEO, you get the feedback. But you get that same feedback, but it might take longer. So which one is better is probably the question you're asking. So let's start a new board. So what is better? And the answer is neither. Both have their place. Both have their, like I said, their advantages and disadvantages. But overall, I prefer SEO in the long term because it's a long-term investment. And once it's in, like I say, once it's in place, you have an asset forever. That said, if you're starting a new campaign, particularly if you're working with a business, I think it's best to do both. Start with some PPC because it's going to take some time to get some ranking for your website. Ranking means making your website show up higher with SEO. And then as your SEO gets better and your site starts to show up higher, you can scale down the dollars for the PPC. That way they're getting some traffic while you work on this, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to do this forever. They can scale that back and really up their profitability that way. So that's kind of like that. That's kind of my take on it. Other people may disagree, but overall, you want to know a little bit about both. But this series is about SEO, and this is why I prefer SEO to PPC more than anything. Is that it's long term. You're building an asset, and you're not dependent. I mean, I guess to some degree you are, but you're not necessarily dependent upon your credit card. You forget to change out your credit card, and your traffic goes away. Even if you catch it in a day, that can be a lot of money. So that's kind of why I prefer PPC to SEO. I mean, SEO to PPC is that once you get it in place, it's an asset for, I don't want to say forever, but somewhat forever. So that's kind of where we're at. Let's take a look at some examples just to kind of elaborate a little bit, because I know people are visual and this may not have been as helpful as it could be to some people. All right, so we're here at Google and we have searched the term New York lawyer. That's just a generic term that I thought of. It just basically would be someone looking for a lawyer in New York. And these right here, these are PPC ads. That means that Legal Shield has paid to show up for the term New York lawyer. New York City Bar has paid for it. And then Barron Law Office has. Now, you'll notice here, these numbers. This is provided by a tool called Keywords Everywhere. And we'll talk about that later. But it's going to show you the volume per month. That means how many people in an average month are searching for that term. Then it's going to show you the CPC. That stands for cost per click. And that means on average, it costs about $9.48 for one click to the site, to a site from one of these ads. So, for example, if I were to click this in, I'm not going to do that because it's not cool, but click this ad, whether I bought anything or not, that's going to cost Barron Law Office $9.48 or somewhere in that area. That's an average and not an exact figure. So that's great. I mean, I'm sure that's a profit for them if, even 1 out of 10 converts, because obviously attorneys cost a good amount of money. However, if we come down here, let's find, it wouldn't cost Perrickman anything if I clicked on this, and I'd be just as likely, if not more likely, to buy up on their services. So that's why I prefer SEO to PPC, even though it does take longer to get the results. But I wanted to kind of show you what an ad looks like, and just kind of an example that illustrates the advantage of SEO over PPC. So once you're ranking, like I say, it does. I'm not saying you'll be there forever, but it is easier to stay there once you get there. And the advantage is that when I click on this site, it won't cost him $9.48. So, do the math. $9.48 times 570 divided by however many ads, that can add up really, really quickly. You could be looking at several $100s a day, depending on the term, and even more for some terms. I think Dallas Lawyer costs even more than that. Yeah, 1086, although they don't get as many searches per month. So I think it's pretty clear how quickly that can add up and why a long-term investment in SEO is worth the money. So I think that kind of covered everything I wanted to talk about in this video. So I'm gonna hop back on camera and we're gonna wrap this up. Okay, so we're here in my computer, and first I'm gonna walk you through a few important points that you need to understand before we get into some examples and how we can use those to continue the site that we've been working on. So what is a keyword? I guess the first thing I need to do is define it. When we're talking about SEO, a keyword is a word or a phrase that describes the contents of a property, such as a web page on the internet. Now, there are other uses in English and probably other languages for a keyword as well, but for our purposes, this is what it means. There's some important notes. Just because I made a typo there, but just because it's called a keyword doesn't mean it has to be a single word. Maybe it's just me, but when I first started, that was confusing to me. I thought it had to be a single word, but a keyword can be one word or a phrase. So computers is a keyword. How to use a computer is also a keyword. Hopefully that clears that up. Generally, a keyword is no more than 5 words, but that's not necessarily always true. It can be as few or as many words as you need it to be. So how to find the best diet for men over 40 in America or something like that could be a keyword. But then again, it could be something simple like dieting. So it just depends on what you're trying to use it for and things like that. And we'll get into that in a bit. Keywords are how search engines understand the contents of various properties on the internet. And I say various properties, meaning not just limited to web pages and websites, but videos, social media, things like that. So the reason I mention this is because often I get people asking me to look at their site and figure out why it isn't ranking. And when I look at it, they've given the search engine almost no information that it's about that particular keyword. And that's not almost always, but very often the case. So that's why I included that here, even though it's a bit beyond what we're talking about. Keywords can identify almost anything. You could be talking about where to find the best tropical fruit smoothie near you, or you can be talking about where to buy a Dodge Ram pickup. I think they still make those. I don't know. I'm not a car guy. But basically, there's no limit to what it can be. And then not all keywords are created equal. Once we get into my computer or into a search engine a little further, I'm going to show you what I mean by that. But basically, some keywords have much, much more value than others. And that's kind of where the skill comes in. But that's getting a bit beyond us. Let's dive over to a web browser and get some examples going. Okay, so we're here in Google, and I'm going to give you an example of a keyword, or a few examples of keywords, and then we're going to build out a little bit of a list for the site we've been building, and I'm going to talk about some key things that associate with keywords. So let's put in just anything. Let's start with a one-word keyword, and let's go with keto. Now, you'll see here, and to do this, I'm using a browser extension called Keywords Everywhere. And I'll go ahead and leave a link to that in the comments for you, or in the description for you. But You can see here it tells us the volume, the cost per click. Remember how we talked about cost per click in the ads video, the SEO versus ads video? And it gives a competition score. The volume is the average number of searches per month that term gets. So you can see this one gets 450,000 searches a month, or on average, 450,000 searches a month. And it costs 78 cents on average to get a click. So that tells us that there's a lot of people looking for that term, and the cost to advertise for it is pretty low, although there's probably going to be a lot of people advertising for it. The next thing we can do is kind of expand that out, and let's go with Keto for Vegans, which is kind of the site that we've been building out. So you can see this one gets 1/10 as much traffic and costs roughly the same. So this one gets 40,500 searches and gets a cost per click of 65 cents. Now, why is that important? Well, first of all, when you're trying to use search engine optimization to get traffic to your website or whatever, let's just say website so I don't have to keep adding that caveat, you obviously want terms that are going to have some volume. Now, as we get a little more into this later on, I'm going to explain why that's not always a hard number that you need to look for, or a hard rule you need to follow, but it is important that there be some search volume there, because let's just type in something random. Yeah, that didn't work. Let's see. How to find the very best keto for vegan pizza recipes. You see, there's zero volume for that. So, and that's because it's unlikely that somebody's going to type that exact phrase in this. Therefore, it wouldn't be something you would necessarily target. I added a lot of extra words to this just to make sure that I got something that didn't have any volume. So that's why you want to make sure that you have something that has a little bit of search volume when you start thinking about building out your website for whatever purpose you're building it out for. So let's look at a business type term. Let's say lawyer in Boston. So this one that's actually probably not right, to be honest. 69 searches a month doesn't seem right to me. That's actually an important lesson. I'm glad that happened. You can't use just a tool. You have to use your brain a little bit too. And I'm sorry if that sounds offensive, but it's true. Tools will only give you a piece of the information and help you research it. So Boston Lawyers gets 1,000 searches a month. So obviously this can apply to anything that you want to search. And you see that one has an extremely high cost per click, which is $11. Well, I wouldn't call it extremely high, but a much higher cost per click, $11.14. And what that means is, well, there's no advertisements on that page. Let's try it again. Okay, well, it means that no one is advertising for it at the moment, or at least it's not triggering ads. But essentially what that means is if there were an ad here, let's just pretend this was an ad, and I were to click on it, it would cost that person $11.14. But that's more of a PPC thing, but I just want you to understand what it is. Also, as for this competition score, just ignore it. I don't find those to be very reliable. And by the way, there are lots of other tools that can get you data like this. Just quickly look at one more example, and then we're going to start working on building out a keyword list for our site. Let's look at let's go with Miami massage therapist. And see, this one's a little different. It has a volume of 40 and its cost per click of $3.22. The main things you want to consider, some people will tell you to consider when you're doing SEO, finding things with a low cost per click. I don't really see the logic in that myself, so that's just me. Your mileage may vary. And then you obviously want something with at least a little bit of volume. And like I said, in a later video, we're going to talk about how volume doesn't necessarily mean there's nobody searching for it. But for now, just assume that you want something with a little bit of volume. So I just wanted to show you kind of a wide variety because, like I said, keywords are not created equal. Now, let's go back to our Keto for Vegans. Oops. Okay, so this is going to be what I call our seed keyword. So we're going to start making a list and checking it twice. My favorite tool to do these is literally staring us in the face, and that is Google Suggestions. So if we come down here, we see we see related searches, and what these are things that people that have searched for keto vegan snacks have also searched for. So they've also searched for keto vegan snack recipes. There's zero search volume on that. However, that doesn't mean no one's searching for it. Obviously, Google didn't just pull these out of thin air. These are terms that some people have looked for. It's just less than 10 per month. But we're going to grab that one, put that in our keyword list. Let's see, this one has a search volume of 590, but it's not keto specific, so that's not necessarily what we want. Best vegan keto cookbook. Now, don't you think that that's something that a keto vegan would like? If I can copy and paste it, let's just do this. And then you can click on it and drill down to get even more. Now, there are more advanced ways to do keyword research than this, but this is a great way to, as you're getting started. Vegan keto lunch recipes. That one has 210 searches a month, so that's something we might want to target. And I probably should have been reporting how many searches per month these have. So. $320. And this was, I think, 40,000. So you guys can see it. So let's see what else we have. You can do the other version of it too, vegan keto snacks. Basically what we're doing right now is we're building out a list of terms that we want to put on our site. This has 1,000. And let me find one more good one. I think we're going to take that one too, even though it doesn't have much search volume. And then we're going to find one more with some search volume so we can kind of flesh out our site. Let's see what it recommends over here. See, this one says sample vegetarian keto diet, but why couldn't it be vegan? So, Alright. That didn't work the way I hoped. And this is kind of tedious, but this is how you find out what you need to use to build out your site. Vegan keto before and after. See, I wouldn't have thought of that one. That has 880 searches per month. So I think this is a good one. So we're going to keep that. It has 880. And we're going to go one more level down and see if there's anything. Vegan keto weight loss results. So now we're picking up a trend of it being something that people do to lose weight, which I guess makes sense now that I think about it. So 260. All right, I think that's good enough. I think you get the idea. Keywords these are long tail keywords for our main term. So let me explain why I've done this. Okay. So the reason that we have a bunch of them instead of just one is obviously there are more ways to get traffic that way. The more things that you rank for, the more traffic you can get. But also it's because you want to make as many relevant keywords as possible. So if we start here at the top and we assume this is our home page, then from there we want to have some supporting keywords. So We want to have keto for vegan snacks. We want to have, what else did we get? We would have a keto vegan diet. And then under that, we would have even more. So we had before and after. We had, what else? Weight loss results. And so on. Basically what we're doing is we're giving this site as much overall keyword relevance for the term keto for vegans. And what that's going to do long term, and I'll show that more once we get to building out the site a little bit more, is it's going to help increase the keyword relevance of the whole site and give it a better chance for ranking for the big dog up here, which is the 40K keyword. So one more thing before we wrap this up, let's just check a look at our site. Right. So this homepage is going to be about specifically for the keyword keto for vegans. Then we're going to build out a category for keto snacks, a category for keto diet or keto vegan diet, and all these other things. And then from underneath those categories, we're going to build out those particular topics. So I just wanted you to visually see the site as well. And I still need to get a better image for there since strawberries are definitely not keto. So I think I've probably gone a little deeper in this video than I intended to, and I'm sorry about that, but I really wanted you to get an idea of I didn't want to just give you a definition. I wanted to give you something to look at and tell you what keywords are about. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. So let's do a quick recap. What is a keyword? A keyword is basically anything that describes what a web page is about. It doesn't mean it has to be a single word. It's generally no more than 5 words, but obviously it can be more. It's how search engines understand the content of a web page, and they can identify most anything, but they're not all created equal. We went through an example using the tool Keywords Everywhere and just the stuff that Google gives us to find out and build out a nice set of keywords. And to be honest, we'll probably keep going with this. This won't be all the ones we use on the site. I just wanted to use an example. We got some that were low volume, some that were medium volume, and then one that we're targeting for really high volume. And then we talked about how we're building out relevance with those for our entire site. So as you continue to see the site get fleshed out, this will make more sense. But that's pretty much it for now. I'm going to jump back on camera and wrap this. All right, guys, if you remember correctly, in a previous video, we had gone through and set up our site, ketoforvegans.net. And today what we're going to do is actually going to build out the homepage and add our first content and optimize it for SEO. That may sound a little intimidating, but it's really actually very, very simple. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to log into our site, our WordPress site. We're going to come over to Pages. And then we're going to find the front page, which is this one here. And then we're going to edit it. And we're going to paste in some content that I had written. Now, a quick word about content. You can write it yourself, and if it's a topic that you're passionate about and you're knowledgeable about, you definitely should write it yourself because it's going to come off as more authentic. Personally, I don't know enough about this topic to speak with authority, and frankly, I don't have the time to write it myself. So what I did is I came over here to legit.com, which, full disclosure, is a website that I own. But what this is basically a marketplace where you can get done anything you need, whether it's SEO services or writing or whatever, just to help you kind of go through it. So, and what I did was I bought this service. Let me show you that. I bought this service here and asked them to write an article for me based on the term keyword for vegans. So, and what I did on this one is I needed a longer article, so I bought some extras, and it came out to about $49. Now, I realize that can get pricey if you're doing a bunch of these, but they don't all have to be that long. I just wanted a nice long article, and I'll show you why here in just a minute. So this is the article that the writer delivered. They did a great job, and we're going to go through, and we're going to put that on our site, and we're going to optimize it. Now, there's a few things you need to consider when doing on-page SEO. And before I go any further, again, I want to remind you, those of you that consider yourselves advanced, that are out there getting triggered right now or about to get triggered by some of the stuff I'm going to show in this video, this is for very, very basics. This is for someone who's never optimized a page before and doesn't really understand SEO. So there are more in-depth and more sophisticated ways to do on page, and as you get deeper in your SEO career, you may need to do them. But for now, this is just the basics, and this is just to get you familiar with the things that you're going to do. So anyhow, with having said all that, what I decided for this one is I needed a 2,000 word or 2,500 word article for the homepage. And the way I figured that out is I came over to Google and I looked at the top results and I saw on average what they had. Now that, how many words they had. Now that, as you can imagine, is tedious, right? Like you would have to take that, run it through some sort of tool or like paste it into Word or something like that. And that's a pain in the butt. So what I did was I have a tool called Audit, which again, I own. So, you know, full warning, full disclosure, whatever. And what you do is you just stick in your keyword, search, and what that's going to do is it's going to pull in all the top results. And then what you want to do is just go through and make sure there's none that shouldn't be there because they're ranking on their domain authority, which we'll talk about in a later video, as opposed to their optimization. So for example, this YouTube, that would throw our numbers off. So we'll remove that. And Independent, I believe, is a news site, but I could be wrong. I'm not really sure. Yeah, it's some sort of news site. So we'll remove that. And the rest of these, Pop Sugar, I guess that's a good one. Okay, so now we have a list of around the top 20 minus the ones that we don't want in there. Healthline, I think, is, I think that's a regular one. So then what you do is just come over to averages, and you see the average word count is about 2,043. That's why I had this article written that is 2,500. So it's a bit longer than the average, but that's okay. And the reason we're doing that is we're just seeing what's already working and kind of emulating it or maybe beating it just a little bit. So now what we're going to do is let's go ahead and delete this default text that we put in there. We're going to copy our article, paste it in. So now what we're going to do, if you remember right, we installed a plugin called Yoast SEO. So what we're going to do is we're going to first come down here and put in our focus keyword, and that is keto for vegans. Now, again, there are more advanced ways to do this, and there are a lot of people that don't like this plugin, and I'm sure that they're screaming at their screen right now if they haven't clicked back already, but that's okay. We're not here to please everybody. We're here to get the basics down. So, and what this tool is going to do is it's going to give you some idea of things that you do or do not need to do. So keyword density. The focus keyword is found 4 times. That's less than the recommended minimum of 10 times of this length text. Now, there's a lot of debate about that. Keyword density basically means the percentage of the text that is your exact keyword. A lot of people say it's 1%. Some people I know say 2 or 3. Some people say it's just naturally. It just depends. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to go through and make a few tweaks. So first, we want to have that in the alt text of our image, which we do. We want to have it in an H1 tag, which on this particular site, I believe that this shows up as an H1. It depends on your website theme, though. So let's take a look at our homepage and make sure. Inspect. Yeah, that's an H1. H1 means heading 1. There are 5, I think there's like 7. There's at least 5 different levels of heading. 6, okay. And that's just the way the text is formatted. And then this one, I believe, is actually we're gonna make this an H2. So we don't overdo it. And then let's look for keto for vegan. So now I like to add at least a couple, in an article this long, I like to add a couple more images. So we'll come over here and we're just gonna find a spot kind of maybe in the middle to stick that. Just because, we want it to look a little nice. So we're gonna upload file, and I made a typo there. In fact, let's change this up. Let's go vegan keto foods. And for the alt text, this is the text it displays. If it can't display the image, we're going to go keto or vegan snack. Can't type this morning. And we'll insert that into the page. What we're going to do is we're going to read through the text and find places where we can work in the term keto for vegans, because in my opinion it's not there enough. The problem is it doesn't flow that well English-wise, so you kind of have to get a little creative, but we'll figure something out. So this isn't perfect, but keto for vegans. Now again, this is not ideal. You would work this in a little bit better. So now we're going to come down here and see 6 times, and it wants it 10. I think 6 is probably good enough. We'll compare that in audit here in just a second. So that's check mark number 1. It says that we need an internal link. So we're going to grab this article, even though I don't think I've put anything on it yet. And we're just going to add another sentence here. And this one hits home for me because I will be over 40 very, very soon. So we'll paste that in there. You see how it took that internal link light, and turned it from red to green? So let's go through the list here, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see this a little better. We have outbound links. An outbound link is a link to something off the website. We have that right there with what is veganism. Internal link, we just covered that. Keyword, phrase, and introduction, which is this part here, although that to me is not a particularly important factor. Keyword, key phrase length, good job. Key phrase and meta description, that is here, and I think we set that up in a previous video. Yeah, we did. So that's this part right here. Meta description length is good. Previously used key phrase means that we haven't used this, we haven't optimized any other pages on our website for it. Key phrase and subheading, that's why I changed this one to an H2 instead of an H1. Image alt attributes, we covered that. Text length, we covered that. Key phrase and title, we covered that. And SEO title width, which means this, we covered that. So we have checked most of the checkboxes. And again, I want to reiterate that this is by no means a comprehensive guide to on-page SEO. This is just how to get you started if you're first starting with SEO and kind of showing you the basics. Okay, so here's a quick set of bullet points just because I know I went kind of fast. All you have to do for on-page SEO is look at what's winning, emulate the word count and keyword density, and the number of times the keyword appears, although if you do the first two, if you do 2 and 3, 4 will take care of itself. Then you want to make sure the keyword is in an H1 tag, keyword is in the alt tag of at least one image, keyword is in the meta title, and keyword is in the meta description. That's really all there is to it. So that's kind of how we optimize our page for SEO. And again, one more quick disclaimer. I know that there are better plugins and a lot more advanced steps to doing on-page SEO. I just wanted to give a quick and dirty, for lack of a better term. If you want to know more about how to do advanced on-page SEO, check out Superstar SEO Academy or some other videos on this channel at chrismwalker.tv, and you can always ask in the Superstar SEO Facebook group at superstarseo.group. And also, if you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments on this video, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so like we talked about in the intro, today we're going to be talking about SEO ranking factors, and more specifically, SEO ranking factors for beginners. I say that because this will not be a completely comprehensive guide. This is made with the absolute beginner in mind, so they get the major points and know where to start. So that's just a caveat that I want to throw out there. Let's jump into it. The first major factor is on-site SEO. Now, when I say on-site SEO, I literally mean what it says. The SEO that you're going to be doing on your website itself. So there are other things that we're going to talk about later in the video that aren't done on the website. So I draw the distinction between those. Now, there are numerous important ranking factors, and this is them in sort of in order. There's no hard and fast rule which is most important, but this is kind of the order. Keyword in the URL. Now, what that means is that either your domain name has the keyword in it, or the path to it on your site does. So for example, if your site is miamiplumber.com, then you have it in the domain name. If your site is elegantplumbers.com/Miami-plumbing, then you have it in the URL. Those are the two most important factors. Anytime you can get those, you're doing great. You have an advantage right from the beginning. If you can't get it in the domain, you put it in the URL. The next one is the keyword in the page title. That's what actually shows up in the tab on your browser, not on your website. And you want to start that off with the keyword. So continuing that example, if we had a site that was Elegant Plumbing, we would have Miami Plumbing Company, Elegant Plumbing, or something to that effect. It doesn't have to be that exactly. We've talked about H1 tags before in a previous video. Those are HTML markers that display text on your site in a certain way, and they stand for heading. And the H1 tag is the biggest one. And you want to put your keyword in that. So continuing that, you would use Miami Plumbing. The next is the number of time the keyword appears in the text on your page. So you don't want to just go crazy and just put Miami Plumbing, 100 times and think that's going to win. You have to be precise with it. And the way you do that is to look at the sites that are already winning and kind of emulate what they're doing. Next is keyword density, which kind of relates to the last one. This is the percentage of the text on your site, on your page, that is going to be the keyword. So if you have 1,000 words and you put it 10 times, your keyword density would be 1%. And again, the way you do that is you look at what is already winning, like we did in a previous video, using a tool like audit.io or just doing it yourself, and just figuring out what's already working and emulate that. Alt tags, these are tags, another HTML property, and this is of images. So if you have a site and the images don't load, it will show that text in its place, and putting the keyword in the alt tag is another important ranking factor. Next is meta title. This is what actually shows up in the search engine when people see your website. So when you Google Miami Plumbing and your website shows up, the title that it shows up as the link to your site is the meta title, and then the meta description is what's right below that kind of describes what your site is about. Those are both major ranking factors as well. Next major ranking factor is links. There are a lot of different types of links. So first we'll cover some of the major types that you're going to run into, and then we'll talk about what to look for in a link. The first ones are social profiles and social posts. I put those together because I find that people get confused when I don't. A social profile is if your business has a Facebook page and you have a link to your website on that Facebook page. And by that, on that page, I mean as actually part of the page and not a post on the page. A post on the page is when you post to that social media profile and say, check out our website and then put your URL. So social profiles and social posts, those are no follow links. You don't have to worry about what the difference between do follow and no follow is just yet, but they still carry trust signals, and it's a good way to get relevance. So we're going to talk about those things in just a bit. Citations and directories, these are things like Yelp, YP.com, Foursquare, and things like that, where you list your website in a directory or a citation of your website. So basically you're referencing your website on another one, and you put a link in that profile and it links over to your site. These are important because these are trusted sites, and that helps improve your Google ranking. Web 2.0 links, these are sites like Tumblr, WordPress.com, Weebly.com, and so on, where you can build a website on somebody else's platform and then link it back to your website. These aren't super powerful, but they can be a trust factor if you can get your brand name in them or your keyword in them. So then we have media, news, and press release links. These are things like media, meaning if you can get on like Forbes or Inc.com or Entrepreneur.com or whatever's relevant in your industry. News would be legitimately if you were talked about in the news. Those are obviously very hard to come by. And then press release links. Press releases is an SEO technique where you create a press release and then distribute it out to a bunch of news sites. Those are really powerful trust factors and really powerful links. The next is rich media / social bookmark links. Rich media means image or video sites like YouTube, Vimeo, what's the other one? Dailymotion, or image sites like Imgur, Instagram, PhotoBucket, and things like that. You create a profile on those, you put a link in your profile, and it comes back to you. That's another type of link that you can get that's not super powerful, but it's free and it's good branding and things like that. And then social bookmarks are things like Instapaper, where you literally save your website to a collection of websites that you find interesting that you want to check out later on. And then there's more advanced link building techniques. It's a bit beyond the scope of this video, but I wanted to mention them. You have private blog networks, guest posts, and niche edits. Private blog networks are where you buy an expired site that somebody used to own and you rebuild it and you use it to link to your site. A guest post is if someone has a legitimate blog that they run and you either in exchange for just asking or for paying them or for building a relationship with them, you ask them if you can write a post on their site and then link it back to yours. Niche edits are similar to guest posts, but they are when there's an existing post on a site that relates back to yours, and then you edit it to include a link back to yours. Those are more powerful links and they're more advanced, so it's a bit beyond the scope of this. Now, what makes a link good, or what factors are there in quality of links? First is relevance. If your site is about dogs and you get a link from a site about guitars, it's not going to have as much impact as a link from another site about dogs. So this is probably the most important part. It doesn't have to be 100% of the time, and there are ways to artificially create relevance, but the more relevant the link, the more helpful it's going to be, both in the way Google looks at it and just in the odds that someone will click it and go to your site. Traffic to your site, to a link, is important, because if it's a dead link, it's not going to carry as much weight as a link that's continually getting traffic. We briefly touched on guest post. The higher the traffic on the guest post site, the more valuable the link. And then incoming links, these are links that are coming into the link that you're getting. So this doesn't apply so much with things like social profiles and things like that, but when it comes to like PBNs and guest posts and niche edits and some of the other things we talked about, the links coming into the site are important. This is what builds power. So basically, power meaning that if that site is trusted because it has good quality relevant links coming into it, so it's going to carry more weight to link out from it. Hopefully that makes sense. That's kind of in my opinion, the most important one, although relevance is right up there with it. So relevance, traffic, and incoming links. Now, some other SEO ranking factors these are a bit more advanced, and I didn't really know what category to put them under, but I wanted to mention them as well. So schema is a type of code that describes the information on your website or web page. So basically, Google reads that, it understands what that particular information or text is about, and it uses that to help understand the site and therefore make it more likely to reward it with improved search ranking. Google's product is its search result. So the better the search result it can serve to its users, the happier they're going to be and the more they're going to use its search engine. So if they see a site is getting specific types of traffic from certain sources, it's going to be more likely to reward that site with improved ranking. Google interprets that as a valuable site to its users, so it increases its ranking based on that. Site speed, if your site loads really slow and it creates a bad user experience, that traffic is going to just bounce right off the site. Google's going to see that people aren't interested in that result, and therefore they're going to demote you in the rankings. And then technical SEO and site structure. This is kind of a broad bucket topic, but basically it's the way that your site is laid out from a developer or a technical standpoint and the way it links to other parts of the site. There's a lot of strategy that goes involved in that, and it's again beyond the scope of this video, but basically it's how to, I don't want to say physically, but how to lay out your site in a way that will make it easy for search engines and users to understand, and getting rid of any errors that on the site. For example, maybe you link to from one page over to a blog post, and that blog post doesn't exist anymore. You have what's called a broken link. It's things like that. That's a much bigger topic, but I just wanted to make sure that we covered that. So those are the beginning SEO ranking factors that beginners need to look at in order to start ranking their websites. Again, tons more things that we can go into, and each of these things could be a video on its own, and we may do that as we go on. But I just wanted to kind of give you some resources and give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about in upcoming videos, and just get you an overview of the major factors that are required in order to rank your website. So then if you want to know more about these, there's also some other resources you can use, such as superstarseoclass.com. This is a presentation that I and a couple of my colleagues did a while ago. Audit.io is going to look at those on-page SEO factors we talked about and give you an idea of what sort of numbers to put on your website. If you have questions you want to ask, you can join superstarseo.group, and we'll be happy to help you out in there. And if you do me a favor and subscribe to this channel by going to chrismwalker.tv, that'll subscribe you to the channel in a single click. So if you have any questions other than that, you can also ask them in the comments. I will personally respond. And that's pretty much all we got for you today. Appreciate you watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. All right, guys, continuing our example, we're here at the site we've been working on throughout this series, the Keto for Vegan site. And for those of you that have been following along, you can see I finally got around to updating the header image to something that's at least both keto and vegan. So we got that going for us. A quick definition, I guess. We're going to be talking about inner pages today, as well as versus the home page. The home page is simply the main page of your site, the one that will land on when they don't put anything after the slash. An inner page is basically every other page on the site. So as you can see, I've added a bunch of blog posts, and that's kind of what we're going to be working with today. But any other page is an inner page. So that just means inner page just means a page other than the home page. So we're going to jump over here to the blog. And as you can see, I added about, I think it's like 6 or 7 blog posts to the site. Let's start with this one, vegan keto snacks on the go. So what you want to do, an interlink just means to link one page to another page so people can find their way around the site. So what we're going to do is edit this post. And what we're going to do is find a place where we can put a link in this article over to another one on the site. So what we'll do is open that in another tab, and you just kind of want to read through it. And let's see, vegan keto snacks. So what we're going to do here is we're going to copy this, and then we're going to look at our blog. And I happen to know that we have another article that this fits well. But basically, you want to find another place on the site that would relate to that. So here we have an article for vegan keto snack. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this URL. I'm going to copy it. We're going to come over here, and we're going to paste it into this link. Apply. And now we're going to update. So now when somebody searches vegan keto snacks on the go, and they find our page and they're reading through it, they'll find a link over to that, and they'll now be able to see this article on vegan keto snacks as well. So that's going to keep them on the site, and it's also going to make it easier for them to find things. And more importantly, when Google lands on this page, they're going to be able to do what's called crawl the site and go over to that. So that's basically what we're going to do. So let's do a couple more examples. Okay, so this one, vegan keto before and after. So let's look over at the blog and see if we have any articles that we think we can probably link to that in a natural way. Vegan keto weight loss results. So let's copy the URL for that, because there'll probably be something that we can link to there. So edit, and let's see if there's anything in here about weight loss. Now see, in this one we don't have the exact term vegan keto weight loss results, but we do have the term weight loss. So instead of finding the exact one, it doesn't always have to be the anchor. The anchor meaning the text that's going to link doesn't always have to be exact. Although ideally it would be, but it doesn't in this particular case. So we'll insert, and there we go. You can also link to more than one page. So for example, we can take this vegan keto and just link our home page to it. Then we're going to update that. view post. And one thing I don't like about this theme is it's really hard to see the links, but that's okay. You can see now if somebody's here, they can jump right over to our home page, or they can use that other link. There it is, weight loss, and jump over to vegan keto weight loss results. So that's something more that they're interested in. So I hope you kind of get the point. It's basically just creating a path through the site for visitors to use. This is super powerful because when we start doing links and other things like that, if we link to this page, Google's going to pass what it calls link juice over to the next page that it's linked to, and it's going to work its way all the way down. So let's look at another example of a site that really does this well. Okay, so we're here at Wikipedia, and we're at the article on baseball, which is my favorite sport. So if you see here in the text, they have all sorts of links linking to other pages on their site. So let's see if we want to look at, let's see, National League. So we'll click on National League, and then it's going to take us over to the article about National League. And then from there, we can see World Series. And then that's going to take us over to an article about the World Series. You see how this makes it easy to stay on topic and kind of find your way around this site? Maybe we'll go over to the Boston Red Sox. And then from there, the Atlanta Braves. And it just kind of keeps digging its way down, and it keeps you on the site, and it makes it easier for both the people navigating it to understand and for Google to understand. And that's kind of our goal here. Wikipedia is probably the best example of a site on how to do this. So that's kind of illustrates the concept on a site other than our own. And we're just kind of simulating the same thing by going through our site and just linking it to other places. So we could do that on the home page as well. So let's edit that and see if we can't find a weight loss one. Weight loss. So health and weight loss. Come back over here, link to that, and paste that in there, and update. So there you go. That's how interlinking, and that's super powerful. Now, again, you see how we're trying to work it into the text. Another option you can do if you don't want to do that is kind of just create a little menu at the bottom where you have vegan keto cookbook. Now that didn't come out the way I wanted it to. And then just kind of link a few articles at the bottom. You know, you don't want to go too crazy with this, but it's just another way you can go about it, and just say something like, check out these other articles, or something like that. You probably want to get a little more creative than that, but that's kind of another way you can go about it if you wanted to, if you couldn't find a good place to interlink these within the text. So that's another way to help do that. So let's illustrate this real quick. So just to kind of visualize this, what we're going to do is we're going to have a home page. And then we're going to use what we call contextual links, meaning links within the text itself to link over to our blog pages or our resource pages, or basically any other page on the site. And remember, those are called inner pages. So and I'm not going to write that on each one because you get the idea. You see how this kind of has a certain structure to it? So now when a user lands on this home page and they find a link to the inner page, they'll kind of travel down here, and then maybe this links to another inner page, and then links to another one, and links to another one. It's going to be more likely to keep them on the site, and it's going to boost it up. And then Google is going to have the same experience when they send what's called their bot or their spider to your site. So it's going to come to the site and it's going to look for all the links. So if you make it easier for it to understand, it's going to improve your ranking. And then if you build any links to your site, it's going to pass that on to each one on the site. So that's kind of the basic structure. Now, and then the other topic the other way you can go about it is creating what's called silos. Now that's a more advanced technique, so I'm not going to cover it in depth, but basically that's where you have different topics, and then articles below them. And each silo doesn't interact with the other. And then we'd have the home page up here that links to each one. And there's a whole bunch of other different types of silos. And again, that's beyond the scope of this video. But here, for example, you could have weight loss. And here you could have recipes. And here you can have supplements. Yeah, forgive my my doodling there. And then you could have weight loss for men, weight loss for ladies, and then so on. So that way each one is kind of, this is like the main topic, and then this is like a subtopic and a subtopic. Main topic, subtopic, subtopic. And that's kind of, that's a loose definition of what we call a silo. And again, there's a bunch of different other types of those. And this is a bit beyond the scope of this video, but I just wanted you to make sure that those were on there. So let's just look at that. Look at this one more time real fast. We have an article, and then we find some text within it that could easily link to another article on our site, and we just link over to it. And you want to use the exact anchor text, so whenever possible. So had this article had a place where it said vegan keto weight loss results, you would link with that exact text. But if you don't, you just kind of get something that's close and you just link over to it. It's really that simple, but this is so powerful. You can really boost your whole site at once. And if nothing else, it makes it easier on people that are reading content on your site. So that's kind of the whole point of doing this. So I hope you found all that useful. If you like videos like this, you can subscribe. We're going to be dropping the next video in the series next Wednesday. So go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell so you'll be notified as soon as it comes out. And you can join us on Facebook at superstarseo.group and on Instagram at superstarseo. So thanks a lot for watching. If you have any questions about any of this, ask them in the comments and I will personally respond to them within the first 48 hours. Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. What's up, guys? Chris M. Walker from Superstar SEO and Legit here. Today's video is going to be part of the SEO 101 series that I created, I don't know, a year ago or so, back in 2019. We're going to continue that, and in this video what we're going to talk about is making your website secure using a tool called Cloudflare. Now, what I'm talking about here is if you look up here, you can see that your website is not secure, and you may have run across that in the past when you go to a website and it makes you say this website is not secure. Do you want to proceed? Yes or no? It's a minor SEO factor, but it's a big factor for user engagement and stuff. Most people are just going to click back when they get a notification like that, and they're not going to trust a site that says not secure up here. So it's important to do that. Now, this may seem technical and it may be a little scary, but it's actually not going to be that bad. So I'm going to walk you through how to use a free tool called Cloudflare, which provides a bunch of other benefits as well, but we're going to go through that. So let's jump into it. The first thing we need to do is come over to cloudflare.com and sign up for an account. They have a free level, and that's all you're going to need for our purposes. So I'm going to pause, and then I'm going to sign up for an account. Okay, I've signed up. Now we need to get our website URL, which is going to be the one we've been using throughout this series, and we're going to paste that in there. And it's going to try to get you to pay for some of their plans. You don't need that for our purposes. So just click free. And now it's scanning for what your DNS records. All of this stuff you can leave the same for now. In some instances, I have had to go back and change things in here, but for our purposes, you can leave it that way. Now, what we need to do is go change what are called our name servers. This is what tells the rest of the internet who your website is. So you have to go to where, in most cases, where you purchased it from. In this case, I purchased this domain from Namecheap. So I'm going to pause and log into my Namecheap account. So you will then find the right domain and click on Manage. And this is going to be a little different depending on where you bought your domain, but that's okay. So what we want to do then is come here and change this to custom DNS. And then we're going to come back here and we're going to replace it with the name servers that they give us. There's that one. And there's that one. Now, a word of caution, this will likely take your website offline for a short amount of time while the internet catches up with the domain name change. It's going to say it'll take up to 48 hours. In my experience, it rarely does. So we're going to click the check mark. Great. So now we're going to tell Cloudflare that we're done. It probably won't see the change right away, but we're going to click Get Started. I like to turn on automatic HTTPS rewrites. What that means is that if there is a URL on your site that is still HTTP, it will automatically redirect it to HTTPS, for lack of a better explanation. So we click Save. Always use HTTPS. Turn that to Yes. Click Save. I leave this off, although you can turn it on. And I don't actually know what this is, so I just click Save on that one as well. And then click Finish. Now, that, like I said, that probably hasn't taken effect yet. There's one way you can, well, there's lots of ways you can tell, but one is to go to a website called What's My DNS. You're going to change this to NS for name server. Grab your URL again. And click search. See, it's already made it to most of the internet. Now, in my experience, Namecheap domains, they cache a lot and it'll end up not showing as quickly as I would like it to. But let's try it. Yeah, see, it hasn't kicked in just yet. So we are going to pause and I'll let you know how long that ends up taking, and I'll be right back. All right, well, that didn't take long at all. We are back and it's only been a minute or so, and I did have to open it on another machine, but that's because my local browser is just cached. But you can see now we have the little site lock here, so it shows that. And if we try to force it to go to HTTP instead of HTTPS, which tells it that it's secure, it redirects to HTTPS. So that's all there is to it. That's how you install SSL with Cloudflare. So it's important to have that there because it's a user experience thing. It's a minor SEO factor, and it's a good way to get your foot in the door with potential SEO or marketing clients. You can say, I found your website and I noticed that it wasn't secure. This is something you can fix yourself. Here's a quick tutorial on how to do it, and link them to a video you make, or you can link them to this video, I suppose. And I would just want to give you the chance to go ahead and fix that for you. And if you need help doing it, let me know and we'll go from there. Just something like that, something very, very basic. It's a nice way to show people that you're genuinely concerned, give them a chance to fix it for free themselves. Maybe do it for free or for $20 or something on your own. But it's a great way to get your foot in the door, and it's a thing you should do for all your websites. I'm not saying you have to use Cloudflare to do it every time, but that's the most beginner-friendly way I know of doing it. So if you have any questions about that, ask in the comments or join the Superstar SEO Facebook group, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. That's what I got for you today. Like, comment, subscribe, all those great things, and I'll see you again soon.
Well, there you have it. That was the SEO 101 series as it stands right now. I hope you made it all the way through it. I know it got pretty long. I think it's pretty valuable information. I am going to add to this via the course that's going to eventually be linked in the description here. We'll get into link building a little bit and some other really intro type of things that will, in my opinion, really help you out. So I hope you enjoy that. Check out Legit Courses. It's right in the description. It'll be in the first comment once it's uploaded as well. And that's where you'll find the complete rep course along with any future videos that we decide to add to it. Thanks for watching. subscribe, notify, all that stuff. And have a great one. And I'll see you in the next video.